It's time for some party planning. We begin our look at how Connecticut's political parties are preparing for heated races nationwide and here in Connecticut. Also, Representative Andy Fleischman has a new role advocating for children. He's here to talk about that and the state of Connecticut's education. And Connecticut braces for the trial of the second man accused in the home invasion and murders of Dr. William Pennett's family. We have a preview of what we can expect to hear and see in that. Welcome to The Real Story. I'm Lori Perez. Over the next few weeks, we will be talking with party leaders about the landscape for the next year or so, with some big races gearing up in Connecticut and, of course, with President Obama seeking re-election. There's a lot to plan for. Here now to talk about the atmosphere is the communications director for the Connecticut Democrats, Jaclyn Falkowski. Thanks for being here, Jackie.
Thank you for having me, Lori.
Let's start off with, we're so far off, yet we're already seeing a very heated race for Senator Joe Lieberman's seat. And, the big news that really is a foregone conclusion is that Linda McMahon is going to jump back into it. And I guess if you could talk about, she has a lot of money. She garnered a lot of support in the last campaign. Certainly, I'm sure she has learned from her experience in the last campaign. So, shouldn't Connecticut Democrats be a little concerned?
I think Connecticut Democrats are excited. We have fielded a tremendous group of candidates to run for this seat. And as we saw in the last election, $50 million will buy you a lot, but it won't always buy you a Senate seat. Linda McMahon has been on kind of a tour to try to soften her image, but the bottom line is everyone's going to remember the candidate who, spent $50 million, who lost by double-digit points, and who made her money in ways that were somewhat questionable to people.
But do you think don't you think that she's had enough exposure now and perhaps quelled any concerns that people had about her past and about her kind of aggressive, what some people saw as an aggressive characteristic?
I don't think that much time has passed where that's going to make a difference to Connecticut voters. What we saw last time was that the more people learned about Linda, the less that they were inclined to vote for Linda. And when you look at the candidates that we have on the Democratic side, we have a lot of experience, a lot of talent, a lot of dedication. I think that any race is difficult when you're talking about a high-profile statewide race, but I think that in the end, the seat will stay with the Democrats.
Let's talk about the candidates that are out there so far. We have Susan Bysowitz and, of course, Chris Murphy and William Tong, who has been getting a lot of attention. Talk about those. Describe the race, how you think that might be between them.
Any of the three of them would be wonderful to have the nomination. All three are very dedicated to the state of Connecticut. We have a congressman, the former secretary of the state representative. So, we're just looking forward to any of them.
Even if you get through Linda McMahon, though, you have former Congressman Chris Shays, who is a formidable opponent, and also Attorney Brian Hill, who's going to launch a good campaign, I would assume. And how do you size up those candidates?
I think that it's going to be a challenge in every race. I think when people look at Christopher Shays' record, when he was a congressman, they're going to see that he was a supporter of all of the failed Bush administration policies. That's what lost him when he went against Congressman Jim Himes, and I don't think that's going to change for the people of Connecticut. He's also been out of state for quite some time and maybe a little out of touch with what's been going on. Brian Hill is an interesting candidate, but he lacks the name recognition.
Yeah, definitely. What's your reaction to this past race? There was a special election in New York that lots of people are talking about. Bob Turner won the seats in a historically Democratic district, and people are saying that's a referendum on President Obama. That Democrats should be a little bit shaking in their shoes.
I don't think it's a referendum on the president at all. I think that's a race that had its own local issues. I don't think that you can look at that special election as a referendum. Republicans said the same thing when, in the 26th district in New York was a referendum on Medicare and Social Security. So I think that won't play any kind of part in President Obama's race.
So why do you think that victory occurred?
I think that people were upset with the previous congressman, and that's what came out in the polls.
And do you think that the Democratic candidate was not strong enough to sustain that?
I'm not going to say that he wasn't strong enough to sustain it. I just think that, it was the character of the local race, and I don't think it'll play a big part going forward.
Tell me how involved you all already are in our Senate race.
In our Senate race, well, we're there to support all of the candidates as much as they need us to. And other than that, we're waiting to see how the race plays out.
Yeah, you've been putting out a lot of press releases, though. I mean, responding to different entrances. I mean, Linda McMahon, I guess, is expected to announce in a couple days. You'll be putting out more?
Most likely, yes.
Let's talk about Governor Malloy. The QU poll came out. People were very happy with the way that he responded to the Irene storm and that he was really hands-on. But yet he also gets beat up a lot because people think he's too hands-on. So, I mean, how do you think he's doing?
I think that, Democrats in Connecticut, we support Governor Malloy. I know I'm very proud of the job that he's doing. I think that when you have to make difficult decisions, some people aren't always going to like what you have to do, but he works very hard. He's very dedicated. He has more energy than I think we've seen from a governor in the past. And he's extremely decisive. You may not agree with everything that he does, but in the end, I think what you're going to see is that he's moving Connecticut into a direction that's more responsible, and that's something that should be praised.
We were talking earlier about the primaries and, participation in the primaries, and not only just in the primaries, but in voting overall, and we were remarking how it's sometimes it takes you aback because people seem to be so involved with cable television political shows, with this show on the internet, but then they don't get out there in the end to actually cast a ballot.
They don't. I mean, what we saw in the primaries this past week was about average turnout, about what we expected, which is good that those people who regularly vote are still going out to vote. We would always like to see greater participation. So hopefully with the excitement that's building, this coming year, we can see greater turnout, at least here in Connecticut.
I solicited some questions on Twitter today, and one of the questions that came back to me was whether you were all aware or concerned about the fact that in the Hartford municipal race there were no women candidates. Is that something that you keep track of or that you try to encourage? Or?
We always try to encourage female participation. We actually are working within the Democratic Party to establish a women's caucus. That's something that we're hoping to get up and running within the next month or so. So we will be looking for Democratic women. We have every year we recognize Democratic women at a breakfast that we hold in the fall. So absolutely, we're looking at that and we're encouraging women to become involved in the political process.
So how would they become involved with that caucus?
What they can do is send us an email. You can use our website form, www.ctdems.org. Let us know who you are and we'll connect you with the group that's working to form this. We would love to have whoever wants to participate give us their information.
Very interesting. Thanks a lot. Jaclyn Falkowski, she's the Communications Director for the Connecticut Dems. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Laura.
I know you're going to have a busy year, so I'm sure you'll be back.
Absolutely.
Thanks. Nutmeg Big Brothers Big Sisters has a new president and CEO. He's a familiar face from the Capitol. Representative Andy Fleischman is here to talk about his new role and his ongoing commitment to education.